I realize that normally this is a Bigfoot YouTube channel and a little bit of G.I. Joe, but this is something I feel I have to say. I've been watching wrestling, professional wrestling, since 1984, and that's 26 years. And I can remember a young performer who wrestled in Mid South Wrestling, which was the first wrestling show I ever watched. Young performer who would come to the Irish McNeil Boys Club in, I think it was Shreveport or Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he would just get the tar beat out of him just about every week. But he was always there. He was always um, making certain that he had at least a pretty prolific wrestling career, even if he was a loser a lot of the time. That young man went on to become one of the biggest superstars in the WWE. And he's won numerous championships. He's the first Grand Slam champion of the WWE. I'm referring to, of course, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, he just absolutely was one of the most exciting performers you could ever see, whether you loved him or you hated him. As JR once said, that's Jim Ross, as JR once said, whether you love him or you hate him is irrelevant. He's an amazing athlete, and how right JR is. Shawn Michaels is one of the most amazing athletes in WWE history, which is an amazing feat considering that in 1998 his career looked pretty much over. It looked like he was finished in 1998 after he had suffered a severe back injury. He had to have surgery on his back, and it looked like his career was over. He kind of stayed in the periphery of pro wrestling for the next 4 years after 1998. But anyway, as I said, he was the first Grand Slam champion of the WWE. He was World Tag Team Champion with Marty Jannetty as the Rockers. He was the Intercontinental Champion numerous times. He was he was WWE Champion several times, and he was the European Champion. He was also the World Heavyweight Champion. Not to mention he's won honors as part of Match of the Year. Of course, the Boyhood Dream, 1996, WrestleMania 12. He beat Bret Hart in a grueling Iron Man match, which lasted over an hour. And he's been involved in numerous matches. He's faced just about every superstar there is in WWE and beaten them all. He's been in Elimination Chamber matches. He's been in cage matches. He's been in no disqualification matches. Heck, he was in the very first Hell in a Cell match against The Undertaker. He was in, the very first Hell in a Cell match against The Undertaker, which he won, by the way, thanks to the help of Kane. He also defeated The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble 1998, thanks to Kane, in a casket match. So, Shawn Michaels, this guy has had an amazing career, which, like I said, was even more amazing considering he came back in 2002 and was pretty much better than ever. He was better than ever. It was amazing to see that Shawn Michaels had made his return to the ring after what seemed to be a career-ending back injury. I mean, it looked like he was done. It looked like he was finished for good, and he wasn't. He came back. An amazing success story. He even came back and won the World Heavyweight Championship once from Triple H. and he had amazing matches after he came back. But two of the most amazing to me, one was a match against John Cena at WrestleMania. No, it wasn't at WrestleMania. It was on Raw. It was on Raw about, I guess it was maybe a week or two after WrestleMania 23, I think it was, where he and Cena had a match for over an hour and they tore the house down. Shawn Michaels won that match, by the way. It was non-title for the WWE with the WWE Championship. I think Cena was still champion at that time, but I'm not sure. But it was a phenomenal match between he and John Cena. I mean, they were countering each other's maneuvers. Cena's attitude adjustment was being countered, and the Sweet Chin Music was being countered. Michaels finally hit it on Cena and beat him. He pinned him. The second most incredible match was from last year, WrestleMania 25, against The Undertaker. Even though Michaels came up short in that match, it was still a heck of a match. It was a phenomenal match he had with The Undertaker last year. And from what I understand, he had a phenomenal match with The Undertaker just 2 nights ago at WrestleMania 26, which was streak versus career. In other words, The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, which up until this past Sunday night was 17-0, was on the line against the career of Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels put on a tour de force performance, as he always has. There were moments in that match where it looked like Shawn Michaels might win it, Undertaker might win it. It was very much back and forth. They were kicking out of each other's biggest maneuvers. Shawn Michaels hit Sweet Chin Music on The Undertaker 3 times, and The Undertaker still kicked out. The Undertaker hit the Tombstone Piledriver and the Last Ride on Shawn Michaels, and the Choke Slam, and Shawn Michaels kicked out every time. But what happened was, eventually, what happened was, there was one time where both of them were just basically exhausted. I mean, they were leaning on each other to stand up. And Shawn Michaels slapped The Undertaker in the face. After The Undertaker told him, "Stay down." Undertaker told Shawn Michaels, "Stay down," and he didn't. And Shawn Michaels slapped The Undertaker in the face, and Shawn Michaels got tombstoned, a jumping tombstone piledriver, 1, 2, 3, and Shawn Michaels' career was over in WWE. And then he came out on Raw last night and said his goodbyes to the fans. Very touching send-off, I thought. And he thanked Bret Hart, who he and Bret Hart had a real-life rivalry with each other for many years, which has recently been reconciled between the two of them. They have both come to an accord with each other. They've come to an understanding to where they're actually becoming friends now, which I think is a good thing, is a positive thing. And also he mentioned Triple H, his best friend. Triple H, of course, has been there for him. They were D-Generation X together. And he mentioned Mr. McMahon, Vince McMahon, for putting up with him for over 25 years, So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Shawn Michaels, for an amazing career. You just really inspired me. I really enjoyed watching you wrestle. You were one of the most phenomenal athletes I've ever seen, and I'm going to miss you. I really am. I'm going to miss the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels. Goodbye, Shawn. Godspeed.